with a healthcare professional before taking any dietary, nutritional, herbal, or homeopathic supplement. The information and service provided by this program update is not used to prescribe, recommend, diagnose, or treat any health problem or disease. It is not a substitute for medical care. If you have or suspect you may have a health problem, you should consult your primary health care provider.
Good evening. My name is Wayne Livingood, if it's evening where you're watching this. If not, good day. What I'd like to do today is talk about something that until about 35 years ago I knew nothing about at all. And what we'd like to talk about today is flax. 1970 I was hired by a company called ADM to stack flax straw bales. They weighed about 120 pounds apiece. They were tied with wire, and they were the slipperiest bales in the world. And they had to be stacked absolutely perfect. And I didn't really know what they did with those flax straw bales, but they had to have perfect stacks, and if I made them perfect, they'd continue to pay me, and eventually they'd disappear. Well, in those days, flax was used as a fiber, just as today it still is, a fine fiber for making of everything to paper to what have you. But most of that use of flax has been eliminated. Most people now that are harvesting flax simply put the flax back to the ground so they get the nutritional value back to the soil, and they harvest the seed. In those days, flaxseed was, for the most part, to my knowledge, used for making paint, and linseed oil is what it was used for. As time went on, flax started becoming popular as something that we ingest. First it was the flaxseed oil. People became very, very familiar with the fact that flaxseed oil was good for you. They didn't know exactly why. They didn't know exactly how much. The government was busy in studying the effects of the essential fatty acids found in flaxseed oil, but there really wasn't the public awareness that there is today of not only our absolute need to have essential fatty acids in our diet, but of the benefit in having a balance. And I just want to give a little overview on flax seed in particular. Some of you have probably heard this before, but years and years ago there was this guy called Hippocrates, a very famous healer. Hippocrates found that flaxseed was very beneficial for people to take internally as well as to use externally. And years ago when I was studying this, and I really kind of wondered what he was talking about. I thought, well, it must be like as a poultice, where you take the flaxseed and you grind it up and you put it on some type of an external wound, and there must be some benefit. But I'm not sure that that's the sole purpose of external use of flaxseed, due to the fact that I was in Washington, D.C. about 4 weeks ago, and a fellow came up to me and he said, "I bet you sleep on a flaxseed pillow." And I said, "No, I don't sleep on a flaxseed pillow. I've never really even thought about it." He said, "Well, I make them." He said, "They're fantastic. You take those flaxseed pillows," and he said, "I make them to go around your neck. I make a full one you can sleep on." And I said, "Well, do you make a flaxseed comforter?" And he said, "No, I don't do that." But I said, "So why? Why flaxseed?" And he said, "Well, you've heard about people putting buckwheat inside of a pillow or in some type of a tube, and then throwing it in the microwave to heat it up, or putting it in the freezer to freeze it. And how that could be beneficial if you have some type of an inflammation problem, sore in the muscles in the neck, or whatever the case might be." And he said, "But there's something more about flaxseed." And I said, "Well, exactly what do you mean by that?" And he said, "Flaxseed works way better than a buckwheat pillow." And I just really and truthfully didn't know what he was talking about, other than hot or cold going on sore muscles. He told me that he's got people that he works with that have bought these little flaxseed pillows that he makes, obviously, that have chronic headaches. I don't know if it would be like, the cluster headaches or exactly what type of headache. But they use these flaxseed pillows, and within a short period of time, their headache goes away. And I kind of went like, I don't know. I don't have any knowledge. It doesn't compute from a chemistry standpoint. I don't get it. Since that period of time, I've sold 10,000 pounds of flaxseed to this individual for making pillows, etc. And you'll probably be seeing him in the marketplace. You'll probably be seeing him in drugstores. I don't think he can get away with advertising that'll help your headache, but I think he will very clearly put on little notes saying that these would be very beneficial if you heat them or cool them. The flaxseed will hold together for a long time if you don't crack the seeds. And there may be something to it that I haven't really considered too much, and that is the fact that flaxseed for literally hundreds and hundreds of years has been known to help people avoid inflammation problems internally through the whole tube digestive system, but also externally. And I started to think maybe Hippocrates was actually using flax compresses. Maybe it wasn't just a poultice that went up against the sore part of your body. Maybe flax does have some capability of drawing things out. I haven't studied it, I don't know, but I can tell you one thing, be on the lookout for flaxseed pillows. This guy probably didn't figure it out. Hippocrates probably did, but he kind of fell into this. We'll see where it goes. I don't know that it'll ever be a big market. I don't know that I'll ever understand the science, but certainly it'll work as good as the buckwheat pillows. The analysis of flaxseed is much the same as any seed. There's a hull or a covering, a portion of the seed, and internally they have what is called the germ or the sperm of the seed. The hull is a very, what I'll call protective covering. Due to the fact that flax from 6,000 or 7,000 years ago is the same today as it was then, has to lead you to believe there's something very, very powerful in that covering that germ, the soft part of the inner seed, and protecting the genetic information that's in that seed. Because like I say, the seed's the same now as it was 6,000 and 7,000 years ago. The hull itself goes up against things like UV, ultraviolet rays, various oxidation, various environmental contaminants, and yet it protects that tiny little germ and grows the same plant over and over. That hull is the primary source, 99% of the source of the compound that's called a lignan. The hull is actually made up of various fibers. There's lignin and lignan. The lignans of interest that I've spoke considerably about in the past has been the lignan called SDG, and I'll say it one time. The full name of it is secosola salicylresinol diglucoside, which is way more than you should ever have to say twice in a night. SDG found in the hull of the flaxseed is being studied extensively right now. There's new studies coming out on a regular basis for the benefit of human consumption. Some of the latest studies that are kind of exciting, and I don't know if I've talked about this with this group before, but it's been shown that men that have this thing called male pattern baldness, that take flax hull lignans at a dose of 50 milligrams per day, within a short period of time actually have an increase in the hair follicle size of the hairs they have left on their head. No indication that it grows new hair, but they appear to have more hair because the hair follicle is actually larger diameter. Another study that's very exciting is the men that have what they call the benign prostate inflammation are, by taking, once again, 50 to 100 milligrams of the lignans per day, they've been found to have greatly reduced prostate inflammation, actually shrinking of prostate size and holding it off, the inflammation, as opposed to people who weren't taking it in the control study. A new test is being run right now. It'll be out, I believe, in 6 to 8 months, and this one they increased the dosage of, once again looking primarily at the potential for utilizing the product for shrinking the swollen prostate gland. The part that's really interesting to me from a scientific standpoint is they have definitely put some mechanics as to why it's functioning the way it does. It inhibits an enzyme in our bodies called dihydrotestosterone. Dihydrotestosterone inhibition is what it takes to prevent male pattern baldness or delay it or increase hair follicle size, but also dihydrotestosterone or strong testosterone is what, at least in part, causes the inflammation or the swelling, the enlargement of the prostate gland. Dihydrotestosterone is also a major player in acne in teenagers. And by inhibiting that particular enzyme, they've shown that there's hope in a very natural way, taking a very natural product for to replace something that maybe you shouldn't be taking. The history of flax, people have heard me say this before. It must have been really good for you if this guy called Charlemagne, he was the king of France, made it a law that people not only propagate it, grow it, but they actually consume it. Once again, I don't think he had roasted flax like you folks are eating, but he saw the benefit. The constituent that I'd like to talk about tonight primarily is the omega-3 fatty acid. And I have a number of things I'd like to hit on with this, and there's actually some stuff that you might want to write down, because there are some really good studies out there that are very new. They're very cutting edge, and it evidently took some of these real significant studies to push the government, to the FDA in particular, to now recommend, or allow, I guess would be a better word, that if you have a substantial of omega-3 fatty acid in your food, it should be labeled either a significant, substantial, or excellent source of omega-3 fatty acid. Well, what ended up happening here is the race is on. The food industry has responded in a phenomenal way. I can tell you of numerous companies that I'm currently working with that by March will have products on the shelves of all your local health stores or the nutritional departments in Cub Foods or whatever, and you'll be seeing a lot of yellow labels saying either significant, substantial, or excellent source of omega-3 fatty acid. The majority of those labels will be made or will be done utilizing the omega-3 fatty acids from flax. And some of them will be people that are using fish oil, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But when I was at a show in Washington, D.C., as I'd mentioned earlier, just a few weeks ago, the whole emphasis of the show, to me anyway, seemed to be that people were aware of the fact that the government recognized our need for something called essential fatty acid. I wonder why it's called essential. Not only recognize the need, but that if it's labeled, people may take it. There's a tremendous public awareness right now of omega-3 fatty acid, but there's not a tremendous amount of knowledge on the utilization of omega-3 in combination with other omega acids, omega-6 and omega-9, as to what proper proportion they should be taking in. And I'll touch base on that in a minute. The FDA guidelines say that from 200 to 500 milligrams, 500 milligrams of omega-3 fatty acid is actually considered to be an excellent source. So what I'd like to do is go back to that little seed. This would be something you can file away if you want, but essentially a flaxseed consists of 50% oil. And I'm giving you very round numbers, and the seed will vary from time to time. Sometimes it's 47, 44, but just for this information, if it's half oil, and then half of that oil is omega-3, approximately 1/4 of the weight of the flaxseed is converted then to omega-3 fatty acid, or is equivalent to 1/4 of the weight of the seed. So if somebody tells you, well, you need 500 milligrams of omega-3 fatty acid, you could say, well, okay, let's see, that means I only need 2 grams of flaxseed a day. Well, that's not actually true, and I'll get into that further as well. The fact that the government has recognized the need for food labeling goes a lot further than labeling properly for omega-3. The fact that people are going to have to start labeling their food for trans fats is exciting. I think that trans fats have probably did a little bit more damage than what they're currently talking about right now, but your body doesn't know what to do with them. The FDA guidelines, not knocking the FDA in any way, shape, or form, but I believe that they have led people to believe that the equation I just worked out with you, that 500 milligrams is an excellent source. it's not close to enough, and I'll go into that in a minute. The race to the marketplace is interesting. You're going to see this omega labeling from Flaxseed on tons of products, from bagels to snack chips, crackers, the Middle Eastern bread, the flatbreads, obviously in regular bread, in bagels from major bagel manufacturers, and you're going to see tons of it showing up in pasta. It's going to be in rice pasta, it's going to be in whole wheat pasta, it's going to be in semolina pasta. The reason I know is because I'm working with these companies to do that right now, and it'll be very interesting once the television ads and stuff start hitting this spring as to how hard they really run with this thing. Once again, we talked about what's enough for omega-3 fatty acids. It all depends on your lifestyle. It all depends on what form that you're taking them in. The government guidelines probably aren't quite, they're not inclusive enough to allow a person to make an informed decision. If I'm taking flaxseed and it's roasted flaxseed or it's in the form of a milled or a ground flaxseed, what do I need to take for optimum health? It will vary from individual to individual in the form that you take it in. But what is happening is people, whether they're looking for their omega-3s in fish or they're looking for their omega-3s in flax, are definitely looking and aware of the benefits. The flax versus fish as a source of omega-3, I'll just give you a little snapshot on it. Some people figure, well, the fish possibly are contaminated because they were in the sea, but this guy has a process where he takes out any heavy metals, mercury or cadmium or anything that could be in the fish oil. And fish oil is a great source of the, let's see, I want to make sure I get this right. These words are really hard to say. I'm sure glad you can edit this while I go searching through my paper. I don't like saying that word. I don't think I'm even going to say these. Can you say it yet? Huh? Can you say that word? No, I have to hear you first. Okay. Anyway, there's a knowledge out there right now that if your omega-3 is in the form of EPA or DHA, and one is eicosapentaenoic, and that's tough, and then the other one is doxohexaenoic. And fish oil contains these particular carbon chains of omega-3 fatty acid in that form. So people that are out promoting fish oil will say, okay, now my fish oil is definitely all straight and ready to go and all the heavy metals are out of it. And of course, if you're a vegetarian, vegan or whatever, you may not want to take fish oil. But ours is pure and it contains EPA and DHA. The way our human bodies work, the way they're designed, is to take in omega-3 fatty acid with the 18 carbon chain in particular, and convert in the healthy cell to exactly that, EPA and DHA. So the controversy goes with the fish oil people, they say, well, you haven't had your EPA today. Well, if you've had your flax oil, you have, because your cells do what they're supposed to do. They do convert it to those particular compounds. There's been a ton of study done on those individual portions of omega-3 fatty acid, but flax, that's another good thing. You can't really overdose or overamp on flax because of the fact that your body will convert what it needs for proper health. A healthy cell will convert the flax oil to the EPA and DHA in exactly the right proportion that your body needs. Some people would say, well, you have to have healthy cells. Well, if you're alive, you have some healthy cells. So one of the most interesting things, and it's going to be talked about a lot in the very near future, the third consecutive study has came out by a very respected researcher. I don't have her the names of all of her studies right here, and I don't even have her name right here. But it's not hard to find it because it's all over the internet, and they are respected studies. She's being very, very thorough. These are what we'll call properly done clinical studies, most of it in vitro to date. And what these studies show is that an imbalance of omega-6 to omega-3, omega-3, omega-6, all found in flax oil, and omega-9 is very, very harmful. And to the degree of where she's shown that omega-6 taking in wrong proportion to omega-3 actually causes the increase or the proliferation of cells that are cancerous in vitro in a laboratory type experiment. Then she goes on to say, but it only figures. Our diets 50 years ago, and this is what she said 50 years ago, maybe 60, I'm not sure, but our diets at that time consisted of 2 parts omega-3 fatty acid to 1 part omega-6. And you'd ask, well, why is there such a difference, you know, in 50, 60 years has gone by, has that changed? Yeah, it's changed significantly. Our diets today consist of approximately 20 parts omega-6 to 1 part omega-3. Once again, her tests have shown 3 times in a row that an improper balance of omega-6 to omega-3, at least in vitro, causes proliferation of cancer cells. We are absolutely full of omega-6. If you eat corn oil, if you eat processed foods, if you're this whole invention of these frying foods in corn oil and soybean oil and different things like this, canola oil, have made sure that we've all got a lot more omega-6 than we need. The balance of omega-3 to omega-6 50, 60 years ago, when prostate cancer was not a major issue like it is now, was 2 to 1. Now it's 20 to 1. She's drawing a fairly direct correlation in the fact that this imbalance of omega-3 to omega-6 may actually be causing cancer. The imbalance, not the fact that they don't get any omega-3, but that they have so much omega-6 in their diet. I think that as time goes on here, we're going to see a lot of information coming out. I believe one of the most recent studies that they're working on right now will show that an imbalance or a lack of omega-3 in a child may actually be responsible for, I'll call it, improper development of the nervous system and the brain. One of the reasons I have insight into this is I'm working with a major food company who is working very diligently to put omega-3 acid in all, and derived from flax, in all of their products, from their formula. Now, if you've been breastfed as a child, you got your omega-3s from your mother. But if you were breastfed as a child and then all of a sudden stopped, where are you getting your omega-3s as a child? You're surely not getting them from fish, unless your mom made you drink cod liver oil or something. But you're not getting it. And this whole lapse where people are no longer consuming omega-3 may be responsible for a number of things. Right now the government allows the following claims for omega-3 fatty acid: may reduce the risk of coronary heart disease. It's a pretty big deal, especially for women now, being as how they're saying that that's the #2 killer for women. And may contribute to maintenance of mental and visual function. And if all of a sudden somebody takes you off something when you're 1 year old or 1.5 year old and you have a void in your life and suddenly you're going to school and you haven't developed properly from a, we'll call it a neurological standpoint, it's not a real big stretch to say maybe that's one of the reasons, especially with the imbalance of omega-6 in the diet, why we have the ADD, the ADHD, and even the increase in diagnosed cases of multiple sclerosis. Once again, the major food companies are aware of the fact that they need to provide food groups all the way through, not just stopping after formula or little baby food in bottles, but taking it all the way through, even to the degree, and I'll talk about this also in a few minutes, as to all the different places that flax is going to show up over and above what we talked about before. There's been a real basic problem with the way that people get their omega-3 fatty acids. First off, most of the fish oil hasn't tasted good. Now they're adding sugar and chocolate and good stuff like that to it, so it's more palatable. But there's also been problems with flax oil spoiling. It actually oxidizes at a very rapid rate if it's left either in the sunlight or if oxygen comes in or air comes in contact with it. Milled flaxseed, the norm has been to people take it and put it in a coffee grinder, or if you buy it in a bag at a store, it's been ground up and it's in the bag and pretty good when you first try it, but sometimes it's already spoiled. What ends up happening is there's a very, very rapid oxidation, or in this instance called peroxidation, and it's done simply because, and it happens simply because of two things, and I've actually written a paper on it. If anybody wants copies on it, they can sure have it. In looking at the way people prepared this flax, making it more convenient for people to eat. It doesn't do any good if you got your whole kitchen full of flax if it's not convenient and you won't eat it. But in looking at the way people were milling flax, number one problem was the grinding, or the methodology, whether it be stone grinding or it be using a hammer mill or a pug mill or whatever the case might be, caused an increase in the heat of the flax. So the temperature rose. Sometimes it raises as high as 150, 170, 180 degrees, but always significant temperature increases. This type of grinding or chopping, just like in your coffee maker, if you grind your flaxseed, also causes increase in temperature, but also liberates oil from the germ portion of the seed. The oil, once it's coated, these tinier pieces, the exterior, after it's been heated and it's coated all these little pieces, greatly increases the surface area for this oxidation or peroxidation to occur. What we've developed a number of things, but one of the things is a process called RCM, which is real cold milled flax. And cold milled is a buzzword out there now. Everybody's got cold milled. Our flax is actually put into the machine at an ambient temperature, air temperature. If it's 72 degrees, the flax is probably 72 degrees. It never goes over 72 degrees in the milling equipment, and it exits at 72 degrees Fahrenheit. So there is no increase in the heat at all. Our flax is also dry to the touch, meaning you can handle it and you won't get all oily. The combination of these two things has allowed us a shelf life study. We just got back results again today on 20 months. We have 18-month, 11-month, and 6-month. And the serial scientists made the statement, and I'll give you that study, Dave, so you can get that out to people, that it's highly unusual to have a milled flax product after 20 months having a peroxide value of less than 0.02. When the food industry recognizes a peroxide value of 1, the oilseed industry realizes that a peroxide value of 1 is good. But to have a peroxide value of 20-month-old flax at 0.02 has got them a little baffled. They even commented at the bottom. So this process that we use allows you to take flax that'll taste good, and once you open the bag and you don't put it back in the refrigerator, 3 or 4 months later you can make a pan of bars like I did, or you can take and put it on your cereal. It still won't smell painty or smell like flax does once it starts to decompose. The cold milling has allowed us to, I kind of said it jokingly originally, but now it's catching on. It's allowed us to send flax where no flax has gone before. We have the ability now to send it overseas and give people a viable food product that they can use it in their cooking. They can use it any which way they want, but it won't be spoiled because of the extended shelf life. If you have something that tastes funny and it's not convenient, you probably aren't going to want to take it on a daily basis. That's why these little bars that we made right here, in every one of those bars, not the little tiny squares, but 2 squares actually makes a bar. You have 3 grams of flax hull lignans. You have about 5 times the recommended amount of omega-3 fatty acid. You have a wonderful compound called ribose, which is a precursor to ATP, which is in every single cell in your body. They give it to people in hospitals now to repair their heart muscles after heart attacks. It's been shown, 2 recent studies came out saying that ribose is absolutely beneficial in the treatment of fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue. So you might get a little energy from eating those bars, but there's a lot more to them than that. There's a material in there that I think most of you are familiar with. It's a virgin coconut oil. It's a medium chain fat that your body can't deposit on itself. It's forced to burn it. It will actually not only give you energy, but it may also cause thermogenesis for some people to actually burn off fat over and above than that fat that they consume. The sugar content is still there, but the sugar source is primarily honey, very small amount of cane sugar added. There's an organic cocoa in there, which is said to have some benefits for certain people. But the bottom line issue is taking a bar and putting it in your car allows you to have your omega-3s, your lignans, and then I forgot, tremendous amount of protein. There's a new product that's called Whey Crisps, actually made over in Wisconsin. These Whey Crisps are, they vary from 50 to 70% protein. I have 50% Whey Crisps in those bars. That in combination with the 70% whey protein that I have in there, they have a very good balance of protein to complex carbs, as the oatmeal is very complex from a carbohydrate standpoint, to good sugars, very, very healthy fat, including the fats that are found in flax. So, you know, it might taste good, but just because it tastes good doesn't mean it isn't good for you. The breakthroughs with RCM technology is allowing us to utilize our product in baby food now. When that hits in the market, it'll become very obvious because they'll have national advertising campaigns. It's been said that for the next 10 years, and I don't know if it's just because people like me are getting older and because there's so many people my age, the whole baby boomer generation, but for the next 10 years, there's going to be absolutely phenomenal growth in the area of functional foods. And functional foods, you know, all of our foods should be functional, other than to just fill you up. But the reality is, these functional foods, whether somebody's adding additional lycopene or any number of other materials that they're putting in the food, will be something that's going to grow at a rate of over 20% per year for the next 10 years. And I think after that, it'll grow even phenomenally higher. Functional foods probably will never replace your vitamin supplements, but what a great thing to have if you forget your vitamin supplements, and what a great thing to have with your vitamin supplements. The future in functional foods, the sky's the limit. Whether it be salad dressing, which no longer contains trans fats, but actually healthy fats in combination with significant amounts of omega-3 fatty acid, will be on the shelves as well in the next 3 to 4 months. You'll actually be able to take salad dressing, cover your salad with it, and the salad hopefully is fairly good for you. Take roasted flax seeds, throw those on top for texture, and eat your omegas in a very, very desirable way. The bioavailability of the omega-3 fatty acid, as I said, all of the fats, for the most part, the greatest portion of fats is in the germ or the center of the seed. And you have to access that. You have to have it crushed. You have to be able to masticate it to the degree where you can actually get the oil. If you eat a seed, for the most part, with a significant hull on it, it'll pass through you unless it's crushed up properly. One of the things that we've just introduced, with the plant's been up and running now for 14 days, is a roasted flaxseed. And it's kind of interesting. You can go to the internet and type in roasted flax seeds and you'll get lots of hits. There's one plant up in Canada that advertises roasting flax seeds, but it's not working out for them because it's not a technological thing. It's just something where they put it in an oven and roasted it. We're working with 2 scientists in North Dakota. The one fellow is actually the originator of the roasted flax seeds. And what he's done is he's worked 6 years now, and he's working on his doctoral study in this arena. But he's actually broke the hydrogen bond in the cell, which does give the, what we'll call, it's a polymerization of the hull itself. That polymerization or that hardening of that seed coating now allows that soft germ, which will normally spoil, especially if you heat it or it gets in contact with air or whatever, has a greatly extended shelf life. The way that the material is currently being packaged by us, it has a shelf life in excess of 1 year. What's kind of interesting about it from a functional food standpoint is we're able to do 100% roast, that's what we have in your little cups there, or a 70% roast or a 50% roast. And the reason that we're doing that is now all of a sudden your bread manufacturer can put flax seeds in their bread and actually get the crunch, and the hydrogen bond is broke so that the lignin in the shell itself won't turn into gum. I don't know if you've ever taken just a handful of raw flax seeds, but if you take enough of them and chew them long enough, if you don't get sick of it, you can end up with a nice piece of gum. And This actually breaks that bond, and you need to break that bond in order to be able to access the omegas and the lignin portion of the product. These roasted flax seeds, the 50% blend will be used primarily in breads and dough manufacturing. The 70% will be used extensively in topping for crackers, and you'll also see something coming out that for years has not been thought to be really good for you, but it tastes really good, and that's called cheese balls. You know, I think you've all seen those yellow cheese balls. You're going to see cheese balls that are totally coated with our roasted flax seeds. So it's another way to get your omega-3s in, so you can start eating cheese balls again. The 100% roasted flaxseed, my personal experience is it brings a whole new excitement to salad, more than sunflower kernels or anything else that you can add. And maybe part of it's mental because I know it's actually really good for you, but it does have a wonderful crunch. I know of the bioavailability is very good for the components of that our body requires. I had an argument with a guy the other day. He said, I don't like it on salad nearly as good as I like it on yogurt. And I said, well, to each his own. But I did try it on ice cream. Yeah, it was good on ice cream too. So anyway, I'm not saying that that's the way to do it. But it gives you some ideas. This whole cracker market that's out there, there's one company called Mary Gone Crackers. Man, she uses a lot of flaxseed on her crackers. Now to have a cracker or flaxseed that's actually 70% roasted, it extends shelf life. Rather than going in and heating it and blowing up the seed and it doesn't last long, this one's 70% roasted. She doesn't have to use the same type of heating process, or her or any other number of companies, and it gives her a seed that doesn't oxidize or spoil as rapidly. So that's one of the things that I want to kind of talk about in the future. I'll have a bunch of technical data put together on the roasted flax seeds. The one company that does advertise doing it is doing it in a fashion that is different than we're doing it. They make just a very tiny amount of it, and it would be kind of similar to if you made it in your oven and started popping all over the place. So what's next? I really don't know. In this whole area of nutrition and functional foods, it's really the sky is the limit. But I can tell you one thing for sure. If you don't make it to where people will take it, if you don't make it convenient, if it's not made so it tastes good, there's a much greater chance of the people turning their backs on it. And that's where this whole thing is going. My hope is in the future that they'll be able to give us food that'll actually make us lose weight. The more we eat, the more we lose. Maybe more coconut oil would do that, but the reality is I look for a significant increase in the beneficial aspects of our food source, even within just the next year. And like I said, now you guys have heard me say this. You'll see TV and say, hey, look at there. Companies like Damascus Bread. We've currently got 3 labels for them making significant claims for omega-3 fatty acids. So there's a real exciting thing happening in our culture. And overall, it's going to lead to a healthier population. I believe that realizing that we've got significant gaps in our nutrition for children in particular could be contributing to a whole lot more than just ADD and ADHD or obesity or any other number of dilemmas that they're going through. But I think overall it's going to show that they'll have longer life, they'll be more productive citizens, etc., simply by doing a few things right. And one of them is to ingesting of something that's so significant from the time you're born until you're an adult in what I'll call properly developing your nervous system. And that, of course, is omega-3 fatty acid. So anyway, I'd be glad to answer any questions at this point. Question was, where are the children today getting their omega-3 fatty acids? For the most part, they're not. You don't know too many kids that are eating flaxseed, and I know they don't like fish oil, and their parents may insist that they take something with omega-3 in it. But until just recently, when they started supplementing foods and allowing the labeling, to be so evident, there's really not been, there's been nothing for them. Mother's milk is full of omega-3, and all of a sudden you come off your mother's milk and you get switched over to a baby food that has no omega-3 or just the tiniest trace amounts. You go for years of very important developmental time without once again, an essential fatty acid. There's a reason that the government recognizes that and allows you to make the statement that it contributes to healthy brain function, mental acuity, etc. So it's kind of scary, but I think that's why some of the more upfront, less visible, but certainly more cutting-edge baby food companies now realize they have to fill that void. And once again, if that has an effect on the amount of ADD or ADHD, I don't have proof positive, but it kind of makes sense.
What's a better way to get your omega-3s, through fish oil or actually through natural plants?
Well, my opinion is it's fine. The question was, so what's a better way to get your omega-3 fatty acids, through fish oil or through natural or plants? If you're a vegetarian, through plants. If you're not, I would say once again through plants. As I said here earlier, the compounds, the actual, I'm not going to say the word again, but EPA and DHA that are found in fish oil are also found in flaxseed, just not as EPA and DHA, but it converts in the cell. So you have all the advantages in taking the plant without the disadvantage of potentially taking something that, number one, maybe doesn't taste good, number two, that's not convenient and it's really not good in food, number three, maybe full of sugar and chocolate just so that you can palate it, number four, and this one is more important than probably any of them, may actually not be good for you because of the levels of contamination. These fish are taken out of the ocean. The oceans are in tough shape right now, and yeah, there's pure and pristine waters, but if you do a analysis of the waters, the mercury levels, the cadmium levels are significantly higher than they were 20 and 30 years ago. Where does the fish oil come from? It comes from the fat of fish. Where are the toxins stored in a fish? In the fat. In the great state of Minnesota here now, they've said on the lake that I have a cabin on that I should no longer eat more than one meal of walleyes a week. And they said I could eat 2 meals a week when I talked to the DNR guy, but don't eat the belly meat. And so once again, there's a reason. The materials are deposited in the fat. Now there are some processes out there that can remove these heavy metals, but what are you supposed to do? Test every batch of fish oil that you get and run it through the same process? And there's just no real upside to fish oil over the flaxseed oil that I'm aware of.
This stuff here, now this has to be chewed before it does you any good, or rolled or ground or something?
Yeah, the question was on the roasted flaxseed, in order for it to do you any good, definitely chew it. That's with anything that has a tough seed coating on it, you have to be able to actually masticate or chew it to the degree where you can see some benefit. If you take a whole handful of flax seeds and just swallow them, you know, they kind of come out the way they go in.
Well, I noticed here there's a significant problem is that them little stinkers get under my partial plate and they're hard to bite there.
I agree with you, and I even have a similar problem. It's with one tooth that has a bridge on it, and those little guys get behind that thing. But it's one of those things.
Some type of grinding or something that, anything from a pepper grinder to...
Once again, you could do that for personal preference. Most people's preference is to take it and enjoy the crunch that it has on their food sources. Once you take it, like if you were to take a pepper grinder or anything right now and grind it up and put it on your food and eat it, you're not going to have any deterioration or peroxidation. But most people prefer it. That's why they're putting, they have for years, and putting flaxseed in breads and stuff just to add a little crunch. The problem is in bread, the temperature that the bread actually reaches during the baking process does not effectively roast the seed. So most oftentimes, flaxseed in bread does pass directly through you. So unless that flaxseed is broken in some way, one of the reasons they're worried about breaking the flaxseed or milling it and putting it in his bread is because it shortens the shelf life, because they mill the flaxseed wrong.
So let's say I wanted to take this tablespoonful or whatever it is and put it on ice cream or a salad or something. How do I...
Well, once again, you have a problem that a lot of people would have if they have partial plates or whatever the case might be with any type of seed or whatever. For your instance, in your case, probably for consuming your omega-3s or getting your essential fatty acids in a proper format, you'd probably be well advised to take a milled product that's totally digested for you. We mill our flax to the customer specification, from a 14 mesh all the way to a 30 mesh. And a 30 mesh is actually approximately 625 microns, which is just the tiniest particle. It's like, yeah, it's dust. It'd be like cocoa. And that's used in the manufacture of pasta. The cracker people, they like the whole seed because they want the texture, etc. These seeds, you can chew on them and they actually break, as opposed to taking whole flaxseed and trying to chew them and make gum. Once again, I said we break the hydrogen bond so that the seed is actually something that can be chewed, crunched up, and enjoyed.
Okay, so I can buy something that I can take or eat with whatever, rather than try to eat this?
Yeah, the question was, so rather than take seeds that bother my dentures, most definitely I would strongly recommend the RCM, the cold milled flax. And great shelf life. Right now I've been... No, it comes in a powder. It's that milled flax product. It's milled at the ambient air temperatures, so there's no heating of the product. The process is not grinding like in a pug mill or with a even stone ground or whatever. It's actually more of a particleizing, slicing type operation. It gives us tremendous shelf life. Bags that have been opened and then closed back up without refrigeration have absolutely no spoilage even after 20 months. So I mean, it's phenomenal. It doesn't exist anywhere else in the world of flax, and one of the reasons I know this for sure is, like I said, I just got back from Washington, D.C. for it was actually a natural products exposition, and there was a lot of folks that were in the flax business that came up and talked to me that couldn't believe it. Well, this is the proof positive. It came from the cereal and grains department in NDSU. It's nothing we made up. It's just never been done before. It's a totally unique new process. The reason I only have 20-month shelf life study right now is because that's exactly how long ago the process was invented.
The first stuff you made is still good. You don't know how long it's going to stay that way.
Yep.
Okay? In relation to that.
What's the difference between taking the flaxseed or the milled flaxseed compared to taking the flax hull?
The flax hull lignans themselves have a, that's where all of the SDG, that word that we don't like to say more than once a night, secasolar-isoresinol diglucoside, that particular compound is found exclusively in the hull of the flaxseed. In order, once again, as you had talked about earlier, if you take a whole seed and it sticks in your dentures and you don't want to chew it up because it causes problems or whatever the case might be, you've got to be able to access that compound. That's why people grind their flax, is so that it's bioavailable and it doesn't stick in their dentures and a number of other things. The flax hull lignans are another very, very unique product in the fact that there was the invention itself allowed for only the hull of the flax to be removed from the white germ. The white germ is what contains the majority of the omega-3, 6, and 9 fatty acids. It contains the meal. The hull itself contains lignin and lignans, actually about 70 to 85% lignin, which is like a glue that holds things together, and lignans and other cellulose. The content of that hull, if you're very careful and you don't get any of the germ attached to the hull, the content of SDG can be as high as 7 or 8% with a naturally derived product. The benefits of taking SDG without anything else attached to it seem to be phenomenal. So yeah, there's a ton of people out there that take their whole milled flax and then they add a scoop of SDG on top, and what a wonderful way to get your omega-3s plus bioavailable flax hull lignans, SDG in particular.
The flaxseed and the flax hull phenomenon that's happening right now is, what do you see that's going to happen in the future with all these new products?
In the race to get things into the marketplace, I'm seeing some things right now that I'm not really pleased with. and other things that excites me. One of the things that's being done, there's a company in Europe that is extracting a particular lignan from pine knots, and it is a it's actually 7-hydroxy metarysaresinol. Boy, that's a tough one. Anyway, that particular product is a precursor to enterlactone in our system. It's actually converted in our colon from 7-hydroxy to enterlactone. But on the other hand, the flax hull lignan is converted to enterolactone and enterodiol. So there's companies trying to come on the bandwagon and take advantage of the research that's been done on flax, but they're only going half the way. And it's going to be a far cry before people eat their pine nut knots for breakfast. Maybe pine nuts, but not pine knots. So one of the things I see happening is people taking use, advantage even in some instances on labeling to say their product is really good for you just because they're allowed to put a sticker on it. But if you dig in a little bit deeper and see that you have trans fats and a number of other things in there, then we have to be educated enough to say that that's not true. So in the fervor, there's going to be some foods that are out there in the marketplace that really are advertising to be good for you, but they probably won't be. But there'll be a lot of good ones for you too.
What is the difference between something that we can buy in the store versus what you're talking about?
I don't think I heard that.
The flax that most individuals go to the store and buy.
Well, one of the things that's happened here, if people go to the store and buy a milled flax product, most of them will have on the label that the flax will have a shelf life of 45 days. A lot of them, cold milled product, after 45 days, discard the product. A lot of the flax that's already milled or ground in this instance, because we don't really have anybody else that prepares the flax the way we do. If you take the bag when you first get it and smell of it, and if it starts to smell a little painty, throw it away. No, don't throw it away. Bring it back because they have to give your money back for it. So a big difference in the milled product is there's nobody that has a shelf life in excess of 6 months, even if it's refrigerated. Most of the products that are on the shelves have a shelf life of less than 30 to 45 days. There's a number of people that are in the bread manufacturing business that if they put flaxseed, milled flaxseed, not whole flaxseed, put milled flaxseed in their bread, within a period of 3 days, you'll notice that the bread tastes funny. So we've tried to overcome all of that with these various technologies for processing flax. Buying whole flaxseed, put it in your coffee grinder, eat everything there that day, that's okay. You get your oil, you get somewhat of a breakdown of the hulls, etc., so you will get some absorption and conversion of the SDG, but not nearly as effective as if you took the flax hull lignans in combination with the right size fractionalized particles that occur when you do a cold milling process, a real cold milling process like we do. When you take a look at milled flax, as like I mentioned, there's one that we call flax flour. There's the standard grind that is actually to a 14 mesh size. That's kind of the norm in the industry. But once again, if you increase the surface area, you increase the potential for, it's like a catalyst. You increase the surface area for a reaction. The absorption of a product with an increased surface area is better than one with less surface area. That's, once again, it's kind of common sense. So let me just give you an idea on those bars really quickly. If you eat 2 of those little squares, you're not only getting a fair amount of a very healthy fat, known as coconut oil. You're getting a little bit of organic sugar, not too much. Getting some honey, and that's maybe not the best for some people either. But you're getting ribose, the precursor to ATP. You're getting a little bit of organic peanut butter, a little bit of organic cocoa, getting tons of organic oats. You're getting flax in several different forms, as I mentioned, the roasted flax, the actual flax lignans, or the hulls of the flax, as well as the real cold milled flax. Getting lots of protein. You're getting whey protein, a 70% whey protein and a 50% whey protein to give it that little crunchy. Those are from the whey crisps. So it's a whole lot more than a candy bar, but you're getting your flax. Once again, 2 of those little...
These bars, or do you give a recipe for making them?
Well, they're actually, right now, they're in the process of putting together the plant for manufacturing. I believe that the extruder has been located, the guillotine, the wrapping machine, the facility is being inspected. It'll be a kosher as well as an organic certified facility. So we can, right now we have these bars all organic except for one thing. And that one I'm not so sure you can get organic certification on. I know some people do, but that's for honey. And it's really hard to tell where that bee went. And but they do have a program set up to where if you're out in the middle of Montana and if you have nobody that has any, you know, if it's just out where there's no crops growing or anything, that you can potentially have organically certified honey, but that's a tough one. So.
Thank Wayne Livingood for coming here tonight and sharing all this information that he gathered from the conferences at Washington, D.C. And remember now, you heard it here first at the Health and Wellness Show. Also, I wanted to also say that anyone that has inflammatory problems, arthritis, the flax is a good food to consume. It's good for your hair, it's good for your skin, it gives you energy, you sleep better, good for your nails, and your skin becomes very, very soft, very nice. It's for anybody that has PMS problems. It's also menopausal. The lignans are very, very good. The lignans are different to the regular flax that you can get at the store. Just wanted to point that out. I'd like to thank everyone for coming to the Health and Wellness Center class. Thank you.